Hello, everyone. Fellas, gentlemen, Blue Mondays is an all-inclusive podcast. All genders are welcome, but this message goes out specifically to the chaps out there. Sometimes you're in a tough spot. You're stranded on an alternate world. You just got to talk it out, man. You know, relationship trouble, it's universal. We all feel it. But sometimes you just have to talk it out. You know, you might be on a military mission of utmost importance, but that's no excuse for being a jerk.
Hey, I get the feeling that in these two episodes, Renton is being pretty, constructive and supportive, even though Eureka is not exactly being, very cooperative.
He has his moments.
Yeah. Our boy has come a far way.
Yes, sure. Yes.
This is Blue Mondays, the GLORIO Blog's Eureka 7 recap podcast. I am your host, Zigg, and as always, I am joined by my fellow journeyers, Aqua Gaze. Hello, Aqua.
Hey, boys. Hey, girls. Superstar DJs. Here we go.
I am also joined by G. Hello, G.
What's good, everybody?
No, only I can say that as like a hilarious subversion these days.
Look, I just
sincerity
didn't have time.
in 2025.
You know, I just didn't have a good bit ready yet for the origins of the evil woman juice.
Yeah, the laugh fest, the chuckle a minute palooza that is these two episodes. The two episodes in question being episode 43, The Sunshine Underground, and episode 44, It's All in the Mind.
Yeah.
Spoiler, it is not all in the mind.
So let me immediately get into this, but I'm disappointed that you didn't get my reference, Zig, because that, of course, was a reference to the people to whom we owe the title of the first of these two episodes.
After a long stretch of obscure ones, here's a layup for you.
Yup.
Tell us about The Sunshine Underground, Aqua.
The Sunshine Underground is a track by the Chemical Brothers, the 90s/2000s British duo who are one of the probably most popular electronic music acts to come out of the United Kingdom.
Impressive and wrong.
Okay.
This is named after the band The Sunshine Underground, who were named after... No, I'm kidding. It was named after the Chemical Brothers song.
Right, because the band probably didn't exist yet when the show was made.
They'd existed for about 5 years. But,
okay, all right.
Yes,
sure.
No, I just wanted to make you worried for a second. Yes, This is indeed named after a song by the Chemical Brothers. One of certainly the most famous electronic music acts of the 90s and 2000s in the UK. They're still going strong today. This is from the 1999 album Surrender, which was a number one hit on the All Formats charts, double platinum certified. The Chemical Brothers are Ed Simons and Tom Rowlands, and as I just alluded to, this song, the name of this song also inspired an alternative dance band who released 4 albums between 2000 and 2016. So it is a well-loved, well-known track, certainly one of the most famous namesakes we have had in quite some time.
Yeah. I mean, it is sort of... The thing is, this is more like the kind of electronic music I associated Eureka 7 with, because, the big beat style of electronic music that the Chemical Brothers are known for, or to put it in boomer terms, What If Tomorrow Never Knows by the Beatles was a genre. That is...
Funnily enough, there is a track on this album that is specifically a pastiche of Tomorrow Never Knows.
Features Noel Gallagher.
Yes, it does.
So the thing is that specific kind of music has been incredibly influential on Japanese music and Japanese pop in particular. See also The Prodigy, for example, that rave sound that incorporated elements of psychedelica and even rock and indie rock into electronic music.
Yeah, I mean, the semi-regular appearer in this feature, Primal Scream, are also a fairly obvious example of that. The Chemical Brothers, as I said, are probably one of the more commercial extensions of what we've seen many references to, the sort of rave, underground techno, Manchester scene that flourished in Britain in the 90s there. Certainly the Chemical Brothers are one of the biggest names to come out of that, along with guys like Primal Scream, Fatboy Slim, stuff like that. Although Fatboy Slim was obviously a bit more pop oriented,
right? But like they're like the big tree of the big beat, which is like that kind of sound is called our Chemical Brothers, Fatboy Slim, and the Prodigy. Like
yes, so as I said, one of the more obvious ones. There's a couple more obvious ones coming up as we reach the end. So hopefully this feature will be a little bit easier, but not entirely. Let's say. We begin with our favourite fail son, Dominic. He's back, everyone. Yay!
I get the feeling Dominic is like on the precipice of a realization. Some kind of realization about how maybe they are the baddies.
I've written here in my notes that he has serious buyer's regret at this point.
Yeah.
There's definitely a bit of a feeling in these 2 episodes, especially now that Renton and Eureka are off on their vacation.
Yes.
That we kind of need a new viewpoint character to follow, right? Back on Eureka 7 land, right? And so it does kind of feel like that is the role that that the show is having Dominic sort of slip into for these episodes.
Right, because you'd expect Holland to be that, but of course we all know that Holland died in the last episode, so we need to move on to a different viewpoint character.
I mean, meta-narratively, it is probably more that Holland is done growing and changing as a person.
Yeah.
He is going to be a dirtbag with a messiah complex for the rest of his life. So instead, we need Dominic, a younger person who maybe still has the the capacity to grow and mature as a human being.
Right.
And, as we approach the end of the show, it's time to start drawing character arcs tight, right? And Dominic's character arc for a long, long time, ever since he bumped into Renton way back in like episode, what was it, 7, 8? I can't even remember at this point, but has been sort of a slowly growing realization that perhaps things are not as black and white as he thought they were, and I think we can definitively say these episodes are the moment where he steps over the edge.
Like, what is interesting about this new sort of arc that we have started now that Renton and Eureka have passed the Great Wall is that we can start like digging up plot points that have been kept on ice for a very long time because of the sort of like strong progression of the Renton and Eureka plotline. So all of a sudden Dominic is in focus again after being mostly a background character for the past couple of episodes, and a certain number of concepts that haven't been mentioned in like dozens of episodes suddenly become relevant again, and that's very refreshing. We're getting a new angle on this show. We're getting to see some new locations, some new settings. We get to learn a new side of the world, what with the appearance of the nobility in this episode.
The class war stuff in this episode is it's something all right there. We'll get to that for sure. Right. But the only thing go on.
So about Dominic, I think like they do very fun stuff with him in these episodes. The one thing I'm not necessarily sure of is I know why, but I don't think it was necessary for them to have a romantic angle between Dominic and Anemone. Like,
I agree with you, and I will say to the show's credit, I don't think that the romantic angle is overt. I think that Dominic sees her as not necessarily a conquest in that sense. He wants to save her, and I think they have written it as a romantic relationship because honestly, that is the easiest thing to do, and
that's the thing, right?
It confides to an old set of hoary storytelling tropes that they can feel.
That's what the audience expects.
Yeah, I don't think it's necessary. I do think that it does add a certain amount of personal tragedy to the situation.
What I sort of think is like, I think the strength of Dominic's realization in these 2 episodes is not that Anemone deserves saving because she is like his special girl, like the girl that he loves, but simply because she is a human being, and like everyone deserves to be treated fairly and not be cast aside like a piece of garbage, like what Dewey is going to do with her. I think that would personally be stronger than implying that it's just because she is the girl that he loves. Right?
Well, I don't think they do imply that. I think the whole evolution of the Dominic character over these 2 episodes is that because he begins these episodes determined to save Anemone because she is his special girl, and what these 2 episodes together teach him is that in fact she deserves saving because because the things that have happened to her are being inflicted on countless other people.
Yeah, so that's fair.
In a sense, it's sort of he grows as a character by realizing that it's not always about his personal crusade. It's a larger. There's a greater battle out there. I mean, gee, you're our number one Anemone fan. How do you read this relationship?
I think you guys have mostly nailed it. That I think in some ways, I think this is even reflected in, what is directly shown here, right? Where however you want to interpret Dominic's attempt to kiss Anemone at the first step, at the beginning of these 2 episodes, right? Like maybe you could argue at the start of these 2 episodes, Dominic is sort of doing it out of some misguided romantic affection or savior complex, but I do think by the, reveals at the place, I think by then, because of what Dominic witnesses firsthand, the universal cruelty that is, that is being inflicted on more than just Anemone, I think is what kind of spurs him to approach it from a more genuine humanitarian approach, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think because Dominic has been a broadly sympathetic character for quite some time now, let's be honest. So this is less about endearing him to the audience in preparation for him, to join the side of the angels, and more about kind of rounding his character so that he is changing sides for the right reason.
Right. He's learning that it's not about him. Like he shouldn't become quote unquote a good guy because it makes him feel better. He should become a good guy because that would be the right thing to do.
Yes. And I think he's attempted kiss of Anemone here at the beginning, it's a scummy thing to do, and I think it's meant to be a scummy thing to do because it shows that he is, obsessed with her, with his role as her personal savior to the exclusion of what is right and appropriate in the situation, quite frankly, because he doesn't ask. He in fact, she is in a bad mood because he bought her flowers and the flowers do not mean the right thing. But I think it is intended to show that he is not as involved with this girl as he thinks he is, right? And part of that is because Anemone is completely insane and ping-ponging all over the place. But part of it is because Dominic is making assumptions that he really shouldn't be making, right?
Guy who has only ever talked to one girl be getting strong love of my life vibes here.
I mean, I do think that her just biting him is a nice bit of symbolism. Just some real bad vibes from this scene all round. Speaking of bad vibes, we have Renton, Eureka, and the children in the brave new world of ?
They are doing my favorite trope. They are doing a doomed road trip.
Now, they're not necessarily doomed.
Well, no,
yet.
Like a desperate road trip,
Yes.
the kind of road trip where the characters are like, we're going to escape and run away from it all, and then it turns out that their trip is kind of going nowhere, and they drive each other up the wall. They're doing the ending of Goodnight Bun Bun, and it's definitely going to end exactly like how it ends in Goodnight Bun
please
Bun.
don't.
And here, Aqua, I thought you were about to say your favorite trope, starting a fresh save file of Minecraft. Just a fresh new world, just time to start punching trees and mining for rocks. We could get a workbench crafted in no time.
But you have a giant robot, so punching trees is easy.
In theory, it should be. Nervash really not carrying his weight in these two episodes.
The rocks are too brittle, G. The rocks are too brittle.
I don't even know what that fucking means. I am.
I do enjoy the sort of turnabout is fair play stuff that's sort of lightly hinted at here, where it's like, okay, you kids wanted, to be free and be responsible for your own stuff and like be in charge. So now you're in charge, and turns out it sucks.
Yeah. Also have this gun.
Yeah. So we might as well.
There's also a book, to be clear.
Yes, let's talk about the book first.
Yeah.
So Norb has left them My Big Book of Earth, basically, which leads to the astonishing revelation that they're on Earth. How weird.
They just don't know where on Earth. Like,
Renton nails it down eventually. Like in the second episode of these two, he does say that he thinks they're on the west coast of Africa.
Right, because, I'm pretty sure he's wrong, like, but sure, like, how can you even
because,
tell?
They were like, well, it's like if they're on the west coast of Africa, they were like floating over Japan. At the end of the previous episode, so wow, they glided a long ass way to Africa.
I mean, it turns out if you're descending from Earth orbit, you can pass over the entire planet fairly quickly. There are some fun details here. I like them being astonished by the idea of a salty sea. That's a fun little bit of like backward world building.
I was like, how do they not know what the ocean is? They're surfers.
well, perhaps they were surfers. Renton does explicitly mention that there are no trapars as well, which is why they cannot simply fly out of the cove.
Why they can't just take the eagles to Mordor?
Yes.
Also, also them landing in inexplicably like one of the like worst possible locations. Apparently, it's. I
mean, it's symbolic, right?
Of course, yes. This is all like. I mean, this is physical. This is happening in a real world, but there is very obviously a sense that there is. Some kind of like pseudo secret test of character going on here.
Mm-hmm.
I do enjoy how completely surreal this feels. How incredibly detached from everything the show has been up to this point. It really is like that they have rebooted and reset and started on a completely different type of adventure.
And they do lean into the idea that like this is like, is this Earth or like is this like what is this some kind of recreation, right? Because they do point out that like when they look up at the sky, what they see is like the shimmer of like water.
Yeah, they appear to be inside of their planet, like the sunshine underground. They are they are inside the hollow Earth, and inside the hollow Earth is another Earth.
Yeah, we heard you like Earth, so we put Earth in your Earth.
Yes.
But yes, there's an air of unreality over the whole thing, which makes it incredibly effective. Honestly, it's very unnerving, for want of a better word.
They're on the beach from Evangelion, the beach where you talk about your relationship issues.
Yes, I do think as well that it's very clever that they make it so unnerving by making it completely normal. Like to us, this is a completely normal place, but it is unnerving because it is not like the world of robots and magic plants and everything that we have come from. Like that's a nice little bit of like playing with the format to deliver something.
Right, especially because they have to do mundane things like looking for food and getting water and going on long tedious walks because they can't fly anywhere. It
feels like the inevitable arc where Superman loses his powers and has to learn to like do everything like a human being, right?
Yeah,
and also there's kind of related to all this, right? Like kind of to what you were saying earlier, Zigg, about like getting your wish of freedom, right? Is like, well, now you're also free to
do your taxes.
Yeah, exactly. Free to do your taxes, free to renew your car insurance, right? There's this
free to pay your own bills,
and there is like this. it's it's almost like, and it's like, I think it's very easy to be in love with a person when everything is going according to plan, when you're the chosen kids in your cool robot and the first OP is playing. I think it's very easy to be in love in moments like that. But like, what happens when the honeymoon period is over, right? What happens when you're stranded on an island and your girlfriend doesn't want you to touch her and she's kind of acting weird, and you guys are kind of sniping back and forth because you're like, oh, now you don't know something. Oh, weird, interesting, huh? You snapped at me for not knowing something. It's very believable, like, couples going through a tough moment.
Yeah,
right?
it's not cartoonishly hostile in the way that we have occasionally seen in this show before. It's weird to have Eureka giving sass, but it works because like it's more bitter and resigned than kind of like sassy, for want of a better word.
She has emotions now, including the bad ones.
Yes. And like I was joking in the introduction about, Renton. Like, I think Renton does revert to form a little here. He does take a couple of low blows, but he sort of corrects himself eventually. And in the second episode, he's generally much better. But there definitely is a little bit of kind of a Cold War happening between him and Eureka, between the kids and Eureka and Renton. Like, everybody is unhappy at everybody else, and that's kind of a tough place to be.
Right, people are on edge in a way that feels very, again, like, believable. And obviously, not that we could not relate to the conflicts occurring in Eureka 7, but, the conflicts they're going through are very different than I'm fighting with my girlfriend and we ran out of water, right? Those feel much more grounded, more realistic, I guess, to use a term.
And that sort of plays into the way that this arc feels so incredibly isolated from the other. Because on the other hand, we are still doing crazy anime stuff.
Oh, we are doing big, for example, big mecha anime shit.
Yeah, we are flying into low Earth orbit with our cool new mech that drains your life force.
Oh, man.
So it's not identified in these episodes, but this is the Devilfish, one of the coolest mechs ever.
I love, like, if you allow me to, look, we did our vegetables. We talked about characters. I love the Devilfish.
So cool that you have to do drugs just to get in it.
Not only got to do drugs, but you have to be purposely induced into unconsciousness after piloting it.
Yes.
Like, it's so good. Just
you gotta suck up tons of the spice melange in order to deal with this robot.
Right, like, on every level, mecha has always metatextually been about proxy bodies. Right, the idea of the mech is a proxy body that allows me to fight in ways that are more inhumane, more brutal than a human body ever could. But because it adopts the guise of a human body, it still, it connects the dots in your head, right? And, the Devilfish is such a good, like, they explain, right? The Devilfish is the evil prototype, right?
Yes.
It is the LFO back when LFOs used to cook people's brains.
It is almost exactly Wing Gundam Zero,
exactly,
down to the whole like weird brain interface thing.
It is the LFO that drains your life force, right? It is the Faustian bargain of LFOs in Eureka 7, and And I think in some ways it's so perfectly, like, okay, first of all, it's a great design. It's very cool. Again, it kind of looks like, it kind of actually what it really probably looks like is like Sixth Ranger, like Nervash Type 0, right?
Yes.
It's
like it looks like a prototype. It looks like an unpainted kit. Like,
it's got the chrome, like
it has cool evil fins.
Yes. And I think in some ways it is also the perfect mech for Holland, right? Because what better mech to give the dude with a suicidal messiah complex?
Yeah, I was going to say,
than the mech that kills you.
Like, this mech should be shaped like a crucifix, honestly. Like, it should just be a big flying cross.
Unfortunately, he can't be crucified while piloting the mech. That's Anemone's thing.
Yes,
yes, but it is a so yes. First of all, very neat sequence where we discover that basically what is going on, right, is that Gecko State is basically fighting like a stalling action against Dewey's forces, right, to like stall Dewey's final actions against the scub coral as long as it takes for Renton and Eureka to return from the Great Wall. And so basically an entire war arc is happening for Gecko State off screen, where they are just chasing after Dewey's
weird orbital bombers. I think they're called AJXs or something.
Right, the AJX ships, and just shooting them down or stopping them from bombing the scub coral. It's
important to note that it appears that the production crew realized that if you're going to spend most of your episode animating people sitting down and talking, that leaves a huge amount of budget to do sick, awesome space tricks.
Yes.
And just dump all the budget into this very short space sequence.
I mean, you say that, but there's some pretty impressive dancing later on in the episode as well. This is just a very nice-looking episode.
I mean, we are firmly into the realm of all the episodes will look good. From this
right. There's of course, I would notice it. Right, there's just a shot of Talho during one of these scenes where it's they got the good drawers to draw this Talho. This is it's 30% more detailed.
I mean, Renton looks noticeably less blobby and more human. A lot of the shots here, he has way more detailed hair and stuff like that.
Renton's hair is doing all sorts of weird stuff in this episode.
But I think it is important that we talk about Messiah complexes, right? Because we kind of find out why maybe Dewey and Holland have Messiah complexes.
Yeah, so let's dig into it. I think this is probably the biggest thing in this episode, which is firstly, Dewey's date for this huge ball is Anemone, which is a look, all right.
Mm-hmm.
I bought this teenage girl to this big costume ball, which
I mean, it's to show that he can do whatever he wants, right?
Well, it is also a propaganda thing, right? Because remember, they are still propagandizing Anemone as the hero who will stop the Corallians.
Yeah, she's wearing a fancy dress with a big bow that makes her look like a butterfly. Wonder if that'll be symbolic or something. But yes, and here we get a very biased retelling of Dewey's backstory.
I'm going to dance with you and then use these 10 minutes to randomly explain to you why I'm completely insane.
So I did not remember any of this stuff.
This I mean, I think I remembered parts of this Dewey flashback, but
I remembered none of this, which is crazy because it is so wild.
The thing is, I think the show nails that in the end, what it comes down to with these fascist types, it's just personal grievances.
Yes,
they roll it all up
to
to grand visions of how society ought to be and great theories, but it's just envy. He was jealous because his father liked his brother more than him.
Not to skip to the end here, but the moral of Dewey's story is I was a small child who felt slighted, and therefore I'm going to destroy society and the entire world. So I don't even know where to begin with this stuff.
I mean,
so it turns out that Holland and Dewey are children descended from the families who took people away from Earth, who headed the migration away from Earth in the first place.
It is the classic long lost colonists, become the founding fathers of the New World Order kind of thing in sci-fi.
Yeah,
I mean, it is implied that their father was literally the king. Way back in episode 1, they mentioned that Dewey was imprisoned for killing the king.
Yes.
So I'm not entirely sure. And I think the show deliberately leaves unclear how literal king is meant to be here. I'm not certain whether they're talking about it symbolically or literally. My guess is symbolically, because there's no indication that the Federation has ever been a monarchy.
I mean, they do mention in this episode that the Federation used to be run by the aristocracy, and then the military took over. And now Dewey is taking over.
No, I read that as the Federation used to be run by the aristocracy, but now that Dewey is in charge, the military have taken over. So in any effect, it doesn't really matter, because whether they are children of a literal king or a metaphorical king, it doesn't matter, because the metaphor is the thing that is
right. And it's important to note that the reason, like, you know, we are even talking about this all, right, is that their myth, their legend, right, is that, like, there's this idea that, that to become king, something must be sacrificed, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Law of equivalent exchange.
Right. And, Holland and Dewey's mother died giving birth to Holland, and thus, you know, Holland is decreed, he must be the next king, right? Because look at him, he's already killing loved ones, you know, right out of the womb.
That's
right?
our boy. That's our boy. So I think it's important, though, to bear in mind that, again, this whole story is told from Dewey's perspective.
Of course,
so
yes, but
it is extremely unreliable exposition there. Basically, Dewey's big beef is that he believes that by killing his mother in childbirth, Holland was anointed as the chosen one from birth, basically. And from that point onward, their father neglected him and neglected Dewey, and Holland was given everything he wanted. You know, he was the golden child and everything. And this seems highly questionable, to say the least.
So what do you want to say, Zigg, is that you think that this is more of like a case of their father preferred Holland because Dewey was a weird creep, and Dewey sort of made up this prophecy thing as an excuse?
I don't know. I don't think that there's kind of like too much corroborating evidence but what I think is that this prophecy and like this kingship, quote unquote, are way less important than Dewey is making it seem. I think that this was like a weird old family belief that nobody like. This is why I think it's better if the kingship is metaphorical. I don't think that there was ever really anything at stake here, if that makes sense. You know, I think it is mostly, and it's also worth pointing out that a lot of this stuff is taken from the Golden Bough, which we have seen both Holland and Dewey reading from repeatedly across the show there. But I think that the importance of everything here is being played up by Dewey. You know, I don't think that their father really thought that Holland was a king because he killed his mother. You know, I don't even necessarily think that Holland was favoured as a child. You know, I think this is just Dewey having a grievance and jealousy and sort of rewriting history to justify his own actions.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Actions which include fratricide, because that's killing your brother.
Patricide,
patricide. Sorry. Forgive me, I'm not an expert on parent murder. But yes, so Dewey decides that to become the king himself, he has to put on his best Native American cosplay and then murder.
We got him. Cancelled for cultural appropriation.
Yep,
finally, something we can pin on this man.
Yeah, that's why Dewey's house. That's the downfall of Dewey's house, cultural appropriation. Yep. And so he killed their father, which he believed made him the king because he sacrificed his own father. But it turns out that all of the rest of the nobility thought actually he was a crazy idiot, and they stripped away the family's wealth and status, basically.
Also, the earth itself wanted to punish him for this heinous act. Like,
I mean, that's how he interprets it, right? Like, you know, I mean, like, I think, again, you know, was it coincidence or was it symbolic? I think it depends on who you ask, right?
But this is so good. This is some like Shakespeare shit. Like,
I mean, it is so delusion on such a grandiose scale.
Yeah, like it really just shows without doing the standard anime thing that this man is completely off his rocker.
Yes.
Like,
it somehow doesn't do the standard anime thing, but is also perhaps the most anime thing I've ever seen at the same time there. But yes, you know, it is clearly. I mean, I think part of the part of the strength of this sequence is the fact that Dewey only speaks of it in these grandiose, indirect terms. You know, he never says, I killed my dad. He says, I sacrificed my father for the kingship, you know, and all of this stuff. And
that he's talking about it to Anemone. And even Anemone is like, whoa, that's messed up, man.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's worth pointing out that at this point, we know and he knows, and almost everybody who's not Dominic knows that he is probably going to liquidate her fairly soon. So perhaps that is why he's telling her at this point, you know.
I mean, say that. Like, at some point, I thought he was going to, like, Joker the entire aristocracy. Like, you know, this nation deserves a better class of aristocrat. Like,
yes, it does. I mean, like, and in a sense, like, the ball actually makes sense from that perspective, right? Because he is very obviously, he has brought these people here to humiliate them, right? Like, these people are here to worship him, and he is here to kind of like mock them.
And once again, this show understands how fascism works. You placate the old order to, like, justify the new order, right?
Right, yeah. I mean, like, I've written here, there's very strong Mask of the Red Death vibes here, right? Like partying inside while outside the world is ending, you know, and there's definitely a vibe of, you know, we can placate these people with the trinkets and trappings of high society, and then they will not be a threat while we go out and get some murdering done.
Yes, let them eat cake, bread and circuses, etc., etc.
All of that kind of stuff. There, so yeah, like part of, and you know, this also explains why Dewey is so big on the whole. Like all through the show, we've been talking about like Dewey as a new world order kind of vision, and this just reveals that is in fact his explicit motive. You know, he wants to destroy the old world and bring about, you know, a new world which he feels will be better because it is in his image,
right? Because it is his quote unquote birthright. Like, it doesn't even have to do with what is better for society. That's just a veneer. It's all about him and his personal grievances, and I think this episode shows that really well. Like,
yeah, and this is kind of why I was amazed that I had forgotten all of this stuff, you know, because I will say that, like, this stuff doesn't, you know, the whole thing with the king stuff doesn't really go anywhere. This is the only real time it's mentioned. But it is such an effective distillation of the motivation and reasoning behind the character, right? It explains so much about his personality.
Yeah, like I have to, you know, credit where it's due, right? I do think that Eureka 7 has actually done a remarkably good job of fleshing out the, like, particular nature of Dewey's, like, delusions of grandeur, right? As we said, right, the deeply personal, petty origins of his rise to power, like, and I think it's easy to forget, right? Because often I think of the fan base, most of the Eureka 7 fan base tend to flanderize Dewey as just, you know, pedophile creep Hitler, right? Like, I mean,
but also he kind of just is Hitler. Like, he hits every single beat. Like, but he is Hitler as in the actual human, like, a historical figure Hitler, and not like comically evil dictator.
Well,
man.
And you know, it's good you said that, because what I meant is, like, I think people tend to distill Huey just to the, like, the groomer angle of Dewey, right? Like the way in which he interacts around children is often the like the most, like, flanderized easy thing to point at about why Dewey is an evil creep. And this episode kind of reminds you, like, no, that's just, like, one ingredient in the Dewey stew that like there are
Stewie.
Yes, the Stewie. God damn it. Fuck. Oh no, I can't. I've lost it. I'm spinning out of control. That's it. That's all I got.
Sorry.
The thing I will say is that like, Dewey is often underappreciated when people talk about the show, because he is not a flashy villain, right? No. In as much, you know, this is anime, just quote unquote just trying to destroy the world is fairly low table stakes for this.
I think also quite notably, I mean, you know, obviously not the first mecha anime to do this. In fact, Gundam was doing this plenty before. But despite being the final villain, Dewey has yet to ever actually pilot a robot in this show, right? Like, this is like one of those big things about mecha, right? Or whatever a piece of media is about, the final antagonist must also like engage in that, right? Like if it's Yu-Gi-Oh, the final antagonist must play a children's card game.
Yes,
and I think it's very interesting then that, and I think that's why it's easy to like sort of lose sight of Dewey sometimes, right? Is he is not actually Shar Aznable. He is not going to pilot the Sazabi in the final battle, right? He is
the man behind the man, or the woman in this case.
But the thing is, like he I think to a quote-unquote casual viewer, he sort of comes across as a kind of like generic evil military dictator, like Giren Zabi type.
Right.
While it is simply because of how well they nail, I think, the comparisons to how these kinds of people think and operate in the real world, that makes him interesting as a character, even though on a surface level he is indeed this kind of like cold, like military dictator guy, and not the over-the-top flamboyant cackling megalomaniac that you expect from anime.
Yeah, and I think that speaks to the show's focus on humanism and a more human, believable style of storytelling. Right? Like all along, we have praised Eureka 7 for its very nuanced portrayal of character interaction. And Dewey's an extension of that. He is. It's hard to say he is a more believable villain because, again, he's trying to destroy the world. But certainly, this story gives us more of a glimpse into his psyche than we've had in a very, very long time. And it turns out he's motivated by the same kinds of things that these people are always motivated by, right? Like petty spite, jealousy, a belief in his inherent supremacy, and an inability to face facts. And, that makes him perhaps a less imposing villain, but a much more believable one, honestly, there. There's a couple of, before we wrap up on this episode, there's a couple of other things to point out as well, just a few little bits and bobs here. I do want to point out when Renton and Eureka are arguing in this episode, somebody steps in to protect Eureka, and it's Maurice.
Yeah.
Again. Kid is...
this is a strong pair of episodes for Maurice.
Yeah, and we'll get into that stuff in the second episode, because there's way more of that stuff there. But there's also the thing with the ring, which...
Right, they find the one ring.
Well...
I do not remember any of this stuff at all either, so I don't know.
I don't remember the specifics about the ring.
So they find a ring, or Link finds a ring in Amber. It's a gold ring, and it has R and E written on the inside.
I wonder who that stands for.
Well, Renton has Charles's wedding ring still, right? Yes. Which has R and it's a silver ring, and it says R and C on the inside for Ray and Charles.
Yeah.
So I don't know what this is implying, because...
I mean, is it implying that they're in, like, the future? Or
it does seem to be implying that there's some sort of, like, time loop shenanigans stuff.
Is this a stable loop or whatever? Yeah, but...
I did not actually... I might have to go and check this, but I did not actually check whether the R and E ring is just the R and C ring that's been with, like, somebody has modified the C into an E.
No, I did check. Yes, it is very distinctly the C and the E look distinctly different from each other. Yeah, on both the rings.
Yeah, so I don't really know where this is going. I don't remember, which is weird because you this seems to be a fairly major thing.
Right.
You never know. It could be a red herring. I'm not sure there.
I mean, but this is just an example of what I mentioned at the beginning of, like, old plot threads being picked up again. Like the whole Dewey was arrested for killing the king.
Yeah.
Ray and Charles's wedding rings. Like, there's a couple of stuff we haven't been asked to think about for, like, several episodes that all of a sudden becomes relevant again.
I will clarify that you say that Dewey was arrested for killing the king, but that is not the thing which landed him in prison that we see at the start, because we know he went away and had a military career in between.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that is true.
So they refer to him as the man who killed a king, and obviously he did do that, but it is not the thing. So I don't know if that's what you were implying, but just to sort of clear that.
No, you are correct, because of course he wasn't arrested. He was simply the family was stripped of its privileges, and
yeah, I mean,
he was kind of sent on his way.
The implication I got is that like the society, like the high society types, decided to bury it and like lay out their own form of justice rather than sort of take it to the legal system and cause a scandal. I do enjoy the return of Captain Jurgens here, just not this shit again.
Captain Jurgens mentioned.
Yeah,
right. So, I mean, this is mostly setting up the next episode, right? But we do, like, before Dominic drops Anemone off at the ball, he does get new orders from Dewey, right? Which is to report to Warsaw to source the next pilot of the end.
Yes.
Right. Go to Warsaw, not the capital of Poland, a completely different city called Warsaw.
Yes. I mean, look, well, we can get into the naming schemes of some of the stuff here.
Well, I know why it's called Warsaw, but we'll get into that later.
Also, we do get a much loved appearance from Gulliver here.
Yep,
just continues to be extremely heavy as his only notable character trait there. And we end the episode with the revelation that Eureka's arm is looking real fucked up. She's developing a bad case of green.
Yes, this is
she's been infected by the ooze.
And when you were complaining that they were downplaying her scars last time, well, here you go.
Yes, going to Yahoo Answers, my girlfriend and I just had a huge fight, and then she started sprouting green rocks. Is this normal?
Am I the asshole? Yeah. My 14M girlfriend, unknown HF, is turning into a green...
You read them as Roxy, like I got more of a pustule thing.
No, because the reason why I said rocks is because to me they read as like almost like what an unrefined compact drive would look like.
Yeah, I mean, like they look a bit like the weird blisters on the the archetypes, the LFO frames.
She looks like coral.
There's also that, of course. Yeah. Yes. No, I always read them as like weird abscesses or stuff like that, which is much grosser.
Well, yes.
So maybe I just have that. But yes, she is.
It's scap coral instead of scup coral.
Yeah. Well, stop me if you've heard this one before. Eureka is troubled by this.
Poor girl.
That girl can't catch a break, can she? Mm-hmm. And she won't catch a break in the next episode either. Episode 44. It's all in the mind. Okay, Aqua. Do you have any guesses as to the musical reference for this episode?
I'm afraid I don't.
So sadly, this episode is not a reference to cult 1950s British comedy show The Goon Show. It is in fact named after a song by the producer C.J. Bolland. Bolland was born in the UK, but when he was 3 years old, he moved to a backwater third world country called Belgium.
That sounds about right.
Yeah, he settled in Antwerp.
That's interesting because I do know the name CJ Bolland.
Yeah, I heard the recognition in your voice.
Yeah.
Let me just finish up with the quick history here, which is he was influenced by the Franco-Belgian underground electronic music scene throughout the 80s, started releasing records in the mid to late 80s. This song is from his 1991 EP Rave Signal 3. Sorry, what were you going to say there?
So CJ Bolland is mostly known to me for his later collaborations with Tom Barman, who is the lead singer of Daeres, which is probably the closest thing Belgium has to like a big alternative rock band. They became big in the 90s. They were sort of on the cusp of breaking through internationally. They were on Beavis and Butthead at some point.
Yeah.
Yes. And at some point in the 2000s, they went on hiatus, and the frontman Tom Barman started doing all sorts of random stuff. He directed a movie, and he teamed up with CJ Bolland to start an electronic act called Magnus. They released one album, then Barman got Daeres back together, and like 10 years later they released another album as Magnus.
Love that stuff.
it's basically like, that's what I know this guy from.
The other thing I was going to note is that Boland's also a noted remixer. He's remixed a lot of songs from big name artists for like dance mixes and stuff.
Yeah.
There. So yes, he is the rare Anglo-Belgian music producer there. But yes, this episode, whereas the last episode's title was very literal, this episode's title is very ironic. Let's say. There's a little bit of stuff at the beginning here. We get some more good Gulliver stuff. We get Holland continuing his magnificent track record of defying doctors' orders.
Yes.
Eureka, Holland does not believe in traditional medicine.
Eureka has decided to become punished Eureka and wear like a blanket / cloak everywhere now. But I think the main thing we want to talk about from this episode, and like the stuff that takes up the bulk of this episode, is Dominic's journey to Warsaw.
Dominic's weird gothic horror adventure.
It's something horror.
Oh yeah.
So we know from last episode that Dominic has come to Warsaw to find a new pilot for the end. There.
And I think it's important to frame that, because I think that becomes the linchpin that explains all of Dominic's behavior, especially early in this episode.
Yeah, I mean, they basically come out and say it at the end of the episode.
Right, like he's very testy, he's very impatient with everybody, right? Like, you know, there's this scene where when they arrive at Warsaw, which is this bombed out city, right? Yeah. Clearly, like, where like a war took place.
They talk about a civil war 10 years before the show. So.
Right, that, you know, that Captain Jurgens requests to stop somewhere, right, to pay his respects, and Dominic does the truly insane thing of why the fuck is he taking so long? Like honk.
Yeah. Like, it's not just pay his respects. It turns out that Jurgens is from Warsaw,
yes,
and he had a wife and 2 daughters who were killed in the fighting here.
Yes,
and
well, boo-hoo! Everyone has a wife and a daughter.
Right,
all wives matter.
It is like shockingly dickish,
right? I mean, and again, to not to defend it, right? But we are, you know, the context here is that Dominic is desperate because Dominic, like in many ways, this episode is like Dominic hanging by a thread, right? This is Dominic like trying to find the last thread that still lets him like stay within the good graces of the military, but find a way to save Anemone, right? Which is, if I can find a different child to feed to the machine, then surely Dewey will let me keep Anemone, right? Like and so like he's like
we do have plenty of evidence as well that Dominic is extremely naive, right? This has sort of been a recurring trait of his since his very earliest appearance.
And I think that desperation leads to some of his really out-of-pocket statements here, like, hey, we all had people who died in the war, you know, like we don't you know, it's like,
which
like, Jurgens has the patience of a saint this episode.
Yeah, honestly, he is, and I think that's interesting because, like, I think that the shit we are about to see, the trained military soldiers handle it much better than Dominic does, which I think is another sign of his naivete, his inexperience, his lack of understanding as to the kind of thing that he has really gotten himself into. Right. I think this is kind of like the final brutal defrocking of Dominic's ideas that Dewey is a new age leader, you know, a man of principle and honor, or whatever you want to call it there. And I think as well, you know, Dominic mentioning how we all lost people, you know, is an interesting glimpse into his backstory, which we have not really explored very much.
Yes.
Right? Like we've sort of suspected all along that he's a war orphan because, you know, it's the obvious conclusion, but this is the first time it's actually sort of been brought up more explicitly there.
My interpretation of Dominic has always been that he was like an upper class kid who was sort of granted a high ranking position in the military despite not
He's a poor little rich boy.
Right, despite not having the experience for it. And this sort of illustrates that, right? Where, like, the people who are quote-unquote actual military, like, who went through the ranks and had the proper training, sort of know what they're dealing with. Whereas Dominic, who was probably, like, made a lieutenant as, like, his first position when he entered the military... It has no idea what he's dealing with.
I do think the dynamic gets changed from his reveal here that he is an orphan, right? Because I think, yes, our initial assumption was like, oh, sort of a, you know, a lions led by donkeys situation, right? Where like, you know, Dominic is granted a commission because of his status. But what we find out is it's potentially closer to, like, in some ways, he you know, it's not stated explicitly here, but I always chose to read, like, because of Dominic's, like, loyalty to Dewey, like, is there a little bit of, like, pseudo, like, not that he was, like, a proto-Ageha squadron, like, you know, devotee, but, like, is this another person who, like, in some ways is uplifted, right, by a benefactor, and that
he got the Dewey Novac Foundation scholarship, like
something like that.
Yeah, that was always my read on it. You know, that Dominic is a true believer because he was one of the first people, and you know, we know Dewey was in a position of some power in the military before he went away for his crimes. I don't think it's impossible that he may have put his finger on the scale for Dominic in some regard, you know, whether that be financially, militarily, or whatever, and that's the source of his loyalty. Regardless, they have a very lord and servant-esque relationship.
Yeah, it's like some kind of political system where you reward cronies, as it were, or favors.
Oh, democracy. Anyway, yes, we then get an onslaught of symbolism there because actually, no, there is one important thing I must mention before we get to the real shit, which is they're in a Citroen DS. They're driving around in a Citroen DS. It's definitely a Citroen DS. It even has the weird one-spoke steering wheel. Like, it's just one of those weird things where something from the real world is just in this show. Like,
I mean, the Citroen DS is a cool car.
It is.
Sometimes an animator just wants to draw a particular thing.
I didn't realize Akira Toriyama worked on this show.
And who's going to stop him, right?
Yes. It's just very funny.
Yeah. The Citroen DS, truly the DeLorean of Europe.
Yes.
God, that's a very good...
But better built. Anyway, yes. Okay, so their destination is an old church. Symbolism mark number 1. An old church which contains the highly euphemistically named Novac Foundation.
Yes.
You know, Dewey's foundation, which he founded to give back to the world. You know, his charitable endeavor.
Which is run by, like, a creepy, bald minion guy.
Yeah, I was literally going to say this freaking...
Kaiba's butler from Yu-Gi-Oh!
How is this guy not called Igor? Like, how is this guy's name not Igor?
No, or that, or like, oh my god, what's the name of the... what's the name of the dude who's under thrall to Dracula? Like
Renfield.
Renfield, yes.
Yes. No, this guy's name is in fact Deckard, which is one of the more obvious Blade Runner shout-outs I've seen. Yes, yes, and we find out that there's some more symbolism. They walk in under a copy of The Birth of Venus by Botticelli.
I mean, if you want a name for a stooge who blindly obeys orders, Deckard is a pretty good name.
Deckard refers to Anemone as it. He says to Dominic, "Oh, we met once before when I delivered it." And it turns out that Deckard has been taking delivery of a ward full of girls with desperation disease, and he explicitly describes it as delivery. He says they've just been delivered.
Or shipment.
Yes, so that's a really upsetting image idea in general. And I think, you know, I can't speak for myself, obviously, but Aqua, was this about the moment where you realised what we were in for here?
I mean, I think the this whole thing was very effective, but it is not necessarily shocking because once again, this is something we see often in anime, like the secret malicious orphanage that grooms orphans into super soldiers, right?
I mean, look, now that it's been revealed that Eureka is not actually Rei Ayanami, we had to shift all those tropes onto Anemone instead.
Yeah.
Rei and Asuka in one. You've cracked the case. Aisato, you've solved it. You have achieved world peace.
The secret ingredient is insanity.
I mean, there are many ways to read like the reveal of like the creation of Anemone, right? There is, I mean, in many ways, this is like just another arm of the like Dewey Novak's groomer Hydra.
Yes.
Like it's just another form of it, right? Like whether it's the Ageha Squadron, whether it's Dominic here, it's just taking catatonic war orphans.
And I mean,
literally molding them.
Yeah, we'll get to that in a second, actually, because
we haven't even talked about the worst thing yet.
But the thing I will say is that I think it. I agree with you, Aqua. I think it's been fairly obvious for a while now that Anemone is some form of artificial human or modified human, right? We're not stupid. We know the tropes there. I think so. I don't think this revelation is unexpected. I still think it's fairly horrifying.
Oh yeah.
So we were talking before the show, and you said that there was a point at which you screamed out loud while watching this episode. I'm going to shoot my shot here. Is it where Deckard reveals that Warsaw is also called the Joy Division?
Yes. You can't call it that, man. I know it's a funny reference, but you can't call it that.
Anime writers are the bravest people on the planet.
I would argue that this is more appropriate than using it for the name of a band.
Yes.
Honestly.
Well, yes.
So let's explain this reference. Okay, so firstly and most superficially, this is a reference to the band Joy Division.
The very famous band Joy Division,
a British
formerly known as Warsaw.
Yes. A British post-punk band who emerged in the late 70s, early 80s, released 2 extremely influential albums, and then were torpedoed by the fact that their lead singer committed suicide. The remaining members later reformed as New Order, who released the single Blue Monday, which this show and the first episode is named after. Yep. So there's a connection there. But the band is named after the concept of the Joy Division.
Joy Division, yes.
Which was a euphemistic title for a prostitution ring inside Nazi concentration camps.
Where women were forced to prostitute themselves for, the SS officials.
No, so let's clear up some misunderstandings here. The Joy Divisions, as they were euphemistically called, were not for camp members, or they were for higher ranking prisoners. So political prisoners, imprisoned Germans, people who were quote unquote Aryan.
Right.
But they were not for officers or guards who had their own separate brothels.
Okay, I stand corrected.
The use of the term comes from a novella called House of Dolls, which was written by Yehiel Deneur, pen name Karsetnik 135633. As you might be able to guess from that pen name, he was in Auschwitz. And we know that this novella explicitly was the source of the name for the band, because one of the band's early songs, No Love Lost, contains an excerpt directly from the novella.
Right.
So this reference works on 2 levels, which is obviously it is a shout out to the band, as we've just illustrated, but it is, whether you think it's appropriate or not, also directly an invocation of Holocaust imagery, which it's always difficult to say whether that's appropriate, right?
This is the thing, right? Like, I'm pretty sure the members of Joy Division are not Nazis and did not want to make light of Nazi atrocities. They picked the name because it fit the moody, depressive, edginess of their music, and because it was ironic. But you wouldn't be able to get away with that nowadays. There have been bands that have, wisely decided to change their names because they're inappropriate. There was a band called Viet Cong. They changed their names.
Yes.
So it is sort of weird to see that come back in a show made 20 years after the band Joy Division decided to call themselves Joy Division, right?
Yes, and I think the stock excuse they would use is that we're just shouting out to the band.
Mm-hmm.
But I think you could make an argument that it's tasteless. I don't know.
It's a tough one, right? Because I do think the context of it does. I mean, again, it's the context works, but like it does feel a little like it's like for example, right? What if like you called your fictional government secret science program Unit 731?
Yes,
right. It's a little like, okay, yes, the context is correct, but like that doesn't necessarily make it any more appropriate.
Also, I would argue the context is only superficially appropriate. It is superficially appropriate because it refers to a horrible, like, secret thing that is perverse.
Right. Well, it's like also,
this is not a.
It's also more explicitly about like the commodification of these women,
the exploitation of women. But the thing is, you could not. This is not a. Like the name Joy Division was ironic, right? Because that's where you enjoyed yourself with the girls. But this is like there's no joy about this Joy Division at all. So it's it only makes sense ironic as a reference.
Yeah, and
it's ironic, but like there's not even a reason to ironically call it a Joy Division. If you get what I mean.
Yeah, I get it. Like I said, I don't feel qualified to say whether this reference is in bad taste or not. I will say that it is at least, as I said, there is at least superficially a thematic connection. Right. It doesn't really matter because it's not important. It's just a glancing reference, But I
also gotta say, before we move on, I find it very funny that this episode name drops Joy Division and the last episode name dropped New Order.
I mean, like the thing is, New Order is so generic. You can just say New Order about anything.
It is in reference to the same thing that the band New Order is a reference to, right?
Yes, yeah. I mean, like it's the thing I will say is that I would not be shocked if people were offended by this. I don't think it's substantial enough to warrant being offended by. They are at least striving for thematic consistency, but maybe they shouldn't have done this one there. Yeah. Anyway, we'll move from that heavy subject to heavy subject because after we've seen the room full of catatonic women, I shouldn't really say women, they are girls.
Yeah. We have Eureka at home, but the Eureka at home is not as good as the real Eureka. Shut up.
Well, as Deckard helpfully explains, we've gotten a lot better at the cosmetic surgery since the last Anemone.
We have Eureka in all your two-player fighting game colors.
Yeah, the palette swab Eurekas.
Yeah, Tibu gets a bad rep, but if you order a Eureka of Tibu, I swear it will last you like at least a few months before it breaks down.
I think this, like, so the reveal, right, of how Anemone is created, right? That Anemone was never meant to be a person. Anemone is a title. It is a title for the current pilot of the end. And I think the thing that's like so uniquely, like, wonderfully awful about this reveal, right? Because you might think watching this, right? Oh, okay, the reveal is going to be Anemone is like a failed clone made from Eureka's DNA, or like, oh, she's a different, like, Corallian that was pulled out of a different, like, scub coral or something. But it is like
somehow even more fucked up.
Yes. And I think that's so wonderful. It's like, no, they're just brute forcing it. They're like, it's not even like, we inject them with the Eureka juice and that makes them look like Eureka. It's no, we literally perform cosmetic surgery to forcibly make these girls more closely resemble her. Right?
Yeah. It's like,
it's so awful.
It's basically the human equivalent of cargo culting, right? Like, it's so horror. Like the detail that really got to me this time was where he goes, "Oh yeah, we modified their facial muscles so they don't show so much emotion," and I was like, "That is wow, that's."
Right, like him explaining the anemone that you currently have was version 1.8, but like, the 2.0 line of anemone, we've really made strides in making her more Eureka-like than ever.
Yeah,
right?
They won't remind you of the fact that they are human. Like,
It's just extreme. Like, so the thing is, like, I remembered this twist. Obviously, it's fairly difficult to forget, but I had forgotten just how unpleasant it really is.
It really is.
Maybe when I was younger, I just was less sensitive towards these things. But it is really violating. This is horrible. It's so, and you get. They do a really good job of like making these fake Eurekas look exactly like Eureka, and yet at the same time completely unlike her. Right, like they are just so transgressive that it's very.
The thing is also they are invoking all of the hits. Every cinematic parallel to topics of dehumanization is referenced here. We reference like the people in tubes. We reference the Ray clones from Ava. We reference a Clockwork Orange with their eyes being like.
Just in case it wasn't horrifying enough, they put these skeleton frames on their faces that drag their eyes open Ludovico technique style. And this is the bit that I screamed at.
Yeah, it is just a greatest hits of just horrible violations of human agency, right?
Yeah. Deckard offhandedly mentions, the anemone we know, she was a good one. She had really high tolerance to the drugs. She was one of a kind, and I'm like, oh my god, shut up.
Right, like
also already talking about her in the past tense.
Yes. I think I don't know if this is quite what they're implying with it, but they note that most of the anemones we make need the evil woman juice just to be like
conscious,
but anemone, she almost behaves like a person even without the evil woman juice. It's
the thing I have written in my notes is just, oh wow, this is so much more fucked up than I remember. Like it is.
Also even like the implication that most anemones, quote unquote, never even make it out of the facility. Right? They just die when they inject them with the evil woman juice, Witcher style.
So like all three of the test subjects die here, and like Deckard is disappointed, but he's not upset or anything.
Well, he's disappointed in that his tone is more disappointment and shit, I'm really tell your boss I'm really sorry. We tried to source him good this time. It's more like it's disappointed in the sense of like, a vendor who failed to secure merchandise for a client.
We couldn't make the shipment on time. We couldn't get you a truffle this week, but we swear we'll get you a truffle next week.
Just like the mechanization of the process is, and it's the way that they pump them with the drugs and they flex in the just. I don't blame Dominic because Dominic immediately loses his lunch after this, and I don't blame him, quite frankly.
Even the hardened military men here are clearly disturbed by what they've seen, right? Because this, in many ways, this moment is. It's the moment for Dominic. It's obviously also the moment for Jurgens, right? This is. This is the breaking point, right?
I get the feeling that Jurgens has seen this before.
You really think so?
I don't,
not necessarily this, but he has seen cruelty like this
shit
before.
No, for sure.
Yes, he is. This is what I was talking about when I said, he is more. He is a professional soldier. He has killed many people and he has seen many people be killed.
But I think this particular style of cruelty, because it leads to him asking when he reveals he has an issue of Ray out, right?
He's been reading subversive literature. Banned.
I think that is explicitly triggered by what he witnesses here, right?
I think he also recognizes that it has changed something in Dominic, right? Because clearly. There is no love lost between Jurgens and Dominic, but he realizes that there is something here, something profound has connected them both with kind of disgust and outrage at what's going on here, right? And
I mean, it's also the thing, like, he is, as you say, he's a professional. You know, he has to, even when faced with something that utterly horrifies him, he must remain calm for not just Dominic, but his other subordinates as well. Right?
Yeah, I mean, like, he is stoic, but it has clearly shaken him.
Right, and we see that it did awaken something in him, or at least invigorate something that was already there, because of course he already had the issue of Ray out.
Yeah, and I mean, also remember, this sort of ties back into stuff. He is from Warsaw. He had two daughters here. Like, if they hadn't died, maybe they would have ended up on that table. There's it's just, again, I remembered this. I just did not remember how hardcore it was, and how kind of like, even as the viewer, when you are safely distanced from the thing and know that it is fictional, how deeply disturbing the entire setup is.
Right.
Also, a thing that is not even like explicitly acknowledged, but these are all girls, right?
Yes.
And that is, kind of because Dewey is a creep who knows he could hound his power over women more easily, and because girls are more easily marketable as the hero who will save us all.
I think it's mostly because Eureka is a girl.
Yeah,
right? And they are explicitly trying to make copies of her. So I don't necessarily think that it is because Dewey is a creep. Does it make him seem creepier? Absolutely. Yes, absolutely. And you could argue that there's, we are all men. There, you could argue that some of our disgust is from good old gender essentialism. The women must be protected, but that's for the viewer's personal biases to decide. All I know is that I was like viscerally recoiling from this stuff, even knowing exactly what was going to happen. And it's it's way more affecting than I remember. Honestly, it is some seriously fucked up shit. That's all I'm gonna say about that there. So yes, I think I think the place we find ourselves at the end here is that perhaps the pedestal has broken once and for all for Dominic, right? Like, and he admits in this end sequence, the thing that we talked about at the beginning. He thought that by he says the thing. He says by following through with this order and choosing a replacement, I thought that I could spare Anemone from further pain. And even before Jurgens gives him the copy of Ray out, he realizes that that's not. I think, and the bit that he doesn't say explicitly here, but I think that he realizes also is that there is no way that Dewey would ever let Anemone go.
Yes.
Right?
Oh yeah.
The only if she is replaced, she dies. That is the only thing that is waiting for her there. And then Jurgens hits him with the hidden Ray out. And it's like, hey, have you read this wild shit they're talking about in here? About how the end of the world is coming?
It is a good payoff on it was not a big part of Eureka 7, right? But whenever Stoner is sort of musing about what is even the worth of journalism anymore, what is even the worth of writing this article? Dewey has won the propaganda war. Is there even a point in flinging this lantern into the abyss? And to have the payoff be, well, this guy read it, and it seems to be, it's going to affect some decisions he might be making in the future.
Can't stop the signal.
Exactly, right?
It's a nice little, and it's again a good callback to the moment in Pacific State that we talked about. Renton and Eureka as a symbol that a better way is possible, right? That there is an alternative to. Because the thing that all authoritarian regimes say is this is the only way, right? This is the only way to save our people, our country.
There is no alternative.
Yes, and what we have said all along is that the existence of the picture and of Ray out proves that there is an alternative. And in this case, it has come around quite satisfyingly to persuade the exact people it needed to persuade. There is, despite all of the headlining stuff being the. I do want to point out as well, actually, before we move on, that We do get some brief cuts back to Anemone fighting Corellians while we're seeing the girl, the replacement Anemones on the table, and there is so much blood and gore here. Like Anemone guts that Corellian and pulls its intestines out, and it's all on the screen.
As we've seen multiple times now, Corellians have huge guts, right?
Yes.
Apparently,
they are huge, and that means they have huge cuts.
Yes.
I mean, there is a weird sort of double standard where you can show this kind of graphic violence if it is inflicted upon non-human or humanoid creatures.
Right. Yes.
And to be clear, I think they're using it as kind of like a very classic interplay of violence.
We all bleed red.
It's more that they are contrasting, the violence and madness of Anemone with the violence used in the creation process of her. Right? Like the idea that what this process has produced is just suffering and death and destruction and sort of pain. I think that's just some very classic associative imagery there as well. There is a small but notable Renton and Eureka section to this episode there. There's not much of it, but some important stuff happens, mostly involving their continued attempts to escape their island's prison, ? It's hard to say there. I think the most important scene in the show actually is the Renton Maurice scene.
Yes.
Actually.
Maurice has become a doomer.
He has, but he's also become a self-actualizing character, right? Like this is
because right after, not right after, but in the next scene where they show up, we do see him taking the initiative and trying to go after Eureka after she runs away. So this is mostly a kind of childish posturing, but it's a more mature kind of childish posturing than you would get from a younger child, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and we've talked all the way through the show about how the children effectively act as like a three-headed monster. They might as well be one character for the purposes of the plot and the purposes of characterization. And what we've seen throughout the second half of the show, consistently in small scenes, is that Maurice is gradually growing into his own individual character with his own individual opinions. Now, they are bad and unhelpful opinions because he's still, 7 or 8 years old. However old he's meant to be, but it is in the same way that Renton has grown towards being an adult and Eureka has grown towards being a human, Maurice has gradually grown to being his own person as opposed to sort of this collective gestalt. And again, there's that fun role reversal, where now Renton has to deal with a bratty kid who won't do what he's told and is actively causing trouble in the established relationship dynamic.
Mm-hmm. It's sort of also fun to see, the kids have started calling him Renton, for example. They're not calling him Pukey anymore. So it is sort of fun to see how far they have come.
Yeah.
And how they did make the right decision to take the kids along in this, because I get the feeling many viewers would probably be like, oh, but it's, it's the big finale. Why are we taking the annoying comic relief tag-along kids with this? But they are an essential part of Eureka's character, and they contribute so much to her characterization and character development that you sort of need them there to not only see or have them interact with Renton and Eureka, but also to have them show how far Renton and Eureka have come. They're not kids anymore. These are kids. And now let's see how our characters who were formerly kids can serve as an example for these three young children, right? Once again, going off about how the show is about, expectations you have to set for others and how to be an example for those who come after. But I think that's an integral reason why they decided to include the kids, even though they're relatively minor characters in this sort of climactic arc.
Yeah, and I think related to that, I think that the kids represent an important facet of Eureka's characterization because they were her first link to humanity, and they remain one of her most important, right? And so it is powerful when she walks away and Maurice chases after her and she says, "Don't follow me." And he is clearly affected by that, and we are affected by that, because it shows just where her state of mind is. And that they work so well as kind of a way to simultaneously exacerbate tension, but also bring Renton and Eureka together, right? Like just like a real family would. The dynamic between the characters keeps being interesting and important to their characterization as a whole.
Right. I think exacerbating the tension really hits the nail on the head, right? Because it's like if you want to show that things are serious, you hit the comic relief character, right? When when even they get involved in a serious situation, as we see here, like, oh, not even the kids can cause Eureka to show a
just to
warmer
be clear,
side of herself.
you don't mean hit the comic relief character as in physically strike. You mean like affect them with the problem.
Yeah.
And given that they seem to be in a dire situation, things are very difficult and very rough. Renton decides to, break the proverbial seal and discover what magical plot-solving device Holland left for them under the passenger seat. And the thing which Holland left for them that will solve all their problems is the most Holland thing possible. It's a gun.
Well, kid, if you ever get in trouble, at least you won't need to die of hunger. You could just shoot yourself.
It is not just any gun.
It's Charles's gun. Yes, it's the long, but it's the long bolt action.
It's a completely useless sniper rifle.
I just think it's so funny that Holland's solution was like, if all else fails, here is your secret weapon, and it's a literal gun. It's so funny.
Right? You think, maybe it'll be metaphorical. Maybe it'll be like, maybe it'll be like the issue of Ray Out that reminds Eureka and Renton their love for each other,
or maybe it's some secret Deus Ex Machina, like Vodac technology,
a second jar of piss.
Yes,
we did raise that. A gun that they can use.
Well, I mean, probably
a gun that isn't 3 times as big as they are.
Holland's fucking caveman brain probably was like, well, maybe they'll need to hunt for food.
Yeah,
and thus the rifle makes
with
more
this
sense.
sniper rifle.
Like you're not gonna hunt elk with a pistol. I guess.
I'm not giving Holland that much credit. I think he put that there because he thought they might have to waste a guy.
No, legitimately, yes. And I mean, as jokey as we are about it, maybe Holland could have included more in there, but I think it does speak to Holland's or to how unknowable the world beyond the Great Wall was. That they had no idea what it was going to be like, right? Was it going to be literally underground? I don't think they ever anticipated it would just be Earth past the Great Wall, right? And I think it speaks to Holland that he was like, well, should I give you a survival kit? Should I give you sleeping bags or a tarp? No, I'm going to give you a loaded rifle. Right?
This is like that famous thought experiment, that they do at team building activities of you are astronauts stranded on the moon. Which of these things is the most important?
Yes.
And Holland is the guy who would pick gun.
Right.
It's just such a beautiful insight into his character.
Yes.
Yeah. Which is to us, Holland obviously has become a more sympathetic, a softer character, but remember he gave that speech about how he's a killer. And
I mean, that's the funny thing, because a couple of episodes ago, he was like, I will be the monster, I will kill people. That is who I am. But you don't need to be that way. You solve problems your way. Anyway, have this gun in case you need to kill a guy.
I mean, what is it to say? When all you have is a hammer, everything looks like a nail.
I mean, also, hey, kids, by the way, if you ever do actually end up in that situation for some reason, you want to pick the metal pot. That is the one you want, because that is the hardest thing to recreate with items found in nature.
Also, do not pick the compass or the lighter. People will make fun of you because compasses don't work on the moon, and there's also no oxygen, so the lighter won't work either. That's a little tip.
But yes, so this episode ends with Renton and the crew finding out that Eureka is turning into a weird green slime monster again.
It keeps happening, bro.
How could the same shit happen to the same guy twice?
Yeah, again, my girlfriend keeps turning into a green slime monster.
Would you still love me if I were a worm?
Yes.
Oh, Aqua, you joke, but man, let me, we'll see what the next 2 episodes of Eureka 7 are about.
Eureka's going to turn into a sandworm?
I mean, like, this is actually an adaptation of God Emperor of June, although it's not advertised that way.
There is some unironic, like, Renton, would you still love me if I became, something?
We also get one final scene, which is Jurgens and Dominic and, the B team are being sent to Tresor because Dewey has figured out, hey, maybe I should stop all those ill scientists from helping the bad guys.
There may be some light treason among our ranks.
Yes. So, looks like Dominic and the Gecko State are back on a collision course there. Renton and the children are on a collision course with Wacky. And we will see in the next episode where that will take us. Final thoughts on this pair of episodes as a whole, though they are pretty difficult to sum up to one thing, let's say.
I think the show is good. That's how you can sum them up. They're good.
I also think the show is good. Like I said, I was amazed by how much I had forgotten about this segment, because the stuff here is so strong that I'm kind of shocked that I didn't remember it in more detail there. I mean, where do you fall on that axis?
Yeah, I think I am impressed, even now in hindsight, how well Eureka 7 manages to turn up the heat in these episodes. Like, I think the rising tension of like most of the viewpoint characters in these 2 episodes is really well done. And yes, also like I think it speaks to like how strong Eureka 7 was that, like you, I definitely did not recall a lot of the details of these episodes, but watching them now, it's like, oh, it all makes sense. Like, of course these were here, right? Like, it's like this, like, even though I don't remember these events, it like reinforces, oh, this is why I like this show. Or, in the sense that, oh, it always had the capacity for this type of storytelling, even if we forgot it over the last 15 years or so that it's been.
Yeah. I mean, and I think, this is, we're only 5 episodes from the end. This is probably the darkest the show ever gets. And I think it's to the show's credit that this darkness feels earned. It feels like that we have reached this place honestly. It's not done to shock or kind of like just to provoke. I think that it does, all of the plot threads have led to this place, and it feels, is it shocking? Yes. Is it transgressive? Yes. But it does feel like that the show has earned that moment to sort of make it clear the kind of evil that our heroes are fighting.
I think so. Yeah.
Just a really powerful, really impressive pair of episodes there. So hopefully things will be a little lighter next time. Maybe,
probably.
Oh, I'm sure.
The show has such a good track record of being a barrel of laughs.
Just rub some leaves on those green rocks coming out of your skin. Yeah. I'm sure that'll fix it right up.
Yeah. Next time, we will be covering episode 45, Don't You Want Me, and episode 46, Planet Rock. So look forward to more fun japes with your friends in Gecko State.
I can't believe Eureka's going to work as a waitress at a cocktail bar in the next episode.
I mean, like, this one's really tough. You're not going to get what they're referencing with this one, honestly, there. But until we find out whether Aqua can work out the most difficult reference of all time, I would like to say thank you to him for joining me. Thank you, Aqua.
You're welcome.
I would like to say thank you to G. Thank you, G.
Always glad to be on.
And as always, thank you to everybody for listening. If you enjoyed the show, leave us a like, leave us a comment, let us know what you think. Let us know whether you were sick to your stomach in the same way as we were. If you enjoy the podcast, you can follow us on Apple Music, Spotify, Amazon Music, Podbean, Stitcher, YouTube. Leave us a like, leave us a comment, all of that good stuff. We will see you next time.
You're a real one if you own a Joy Division t-shirt.